swearing-in ceremony this morning as the new administrator for the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services.
As CMS Administrator, Dr. Oz will work tirelessly to strengthen and protect Medicare for our nation's seniors and Medicaid for the needy. Just as I promised, there will be no cuts. We're not going to have any cuts. We're going to have only help.
Oz was officially sworn in under his new boss, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And coming up, this mostly cloudy this afternoon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 101.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-330-1991. That's 1-800-330-1991. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-330-1991. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit. As a business owner looking to take your business to the next level, it's all about the right marketing. But what exactly is right for you? At KSL News Radio, we are ready to help you craft the perfect comprehensive strategy. Whether it's our powerful talent endorsements, engaging live interviews, creative production, live events, or our extensive digital platforms, we've got you covered with the right solution. Contact Stephanie Palmer today, spalmer@ksl.com, and let's grow your business together. Email spalmer@ksl.com.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through April 21st, new customers can get started with 150 megabit internet and Security Edge for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying internet package. Call today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra and subject to change. Early termination fee applies.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Tito Nani.
The pace is starting to pick back up on southbound I-15 between 53rd and 7200 south from Murray to Midvale. It appears that crash from earlier has been cleared. Other than that, we have good speeds all around on our Valley freeways between Ogden and Provo. Remember, our KSL Mountain Home Services text line is always open at 57500. From the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Tito Nani.
A high of 50 today. Clouds stick around this afternoon, but we'll see sunny skies and a high of 57 tomorrow in the Salt Lake Valley. Right now it is 46 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
The most important thing for me, my children, his mom, his brother, his sibling, was to see him alive, and we saw him alive.
That was Jennifer Vasquez Sura, the wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, speaking with ABC News after getting the first visual confirmation that he is still alive. That confirmation was because Maryland's Senator Chris Van Hollen flew to El Salvador to see Abrego Garcia. Originally was denied access to the prison. The senator finally was able to meet Garcia at a nearby business instead, and they had a conversation, and so his wife gets to see that he is alive. Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Leah Murray, alongside special guest host Holly Richardson. And I just need all of our listeners to know, Holly, I'm a huge fan of yours.
You're so funny.
Every morning, Holly sends out everything you need to know to understand what's happening in the world of Utah politics. And I read it religiously every morning and require students to read it for assignment. So I just when you hear fangirl in my voice, that is what's happening.
Utah Policy newsletter every morning. So,
yeah.
Yep.
And everyone who cares and is interested should be paying attention to it. Now, Holly, I do have kind of feelings about what is happening here to Abrego Garcia. When the story broke that we were going to deport people, send people to El Salvador, the question that I raised on Inside Sources the day that story was breaking was, how do you ensure due process? Because it feels like, so how do I say, if like accidentally you get swept up in something here in Utah and they put you in like the county jail, like your wife can come and see you in the county jail, your mom can call a lawyer, our friend Greg Skordas, who's a criminal defense attorney, could show up at the jail and maybe defend you.
Yeah.
How does that work if you're in El Salvador?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? And that's the question that's been raised, is that there is no due process. It doesn't seem to be, at least for these people who are being swept up and taken. It's not just deported, right? It's extradited to an El Salvadoran prison, which is basically a life sentence with no due process, not convicted. A lot of people, it's not just this case, but certainly this case is in the news a lot right now. But was there due process for this man? He has, this protective status and where he was supposed to be protected from deportation. And because if he was sent back, he's liable to be beat up and killed by gangs. Anyway, it's really one of the, I think, key conversations that people are having across the country right now is what happened to due process. And if we say we're not okay with, or we are okay with some bad people not having due process, we really have to look at what does that mean if that's applied to us.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting point. The United States Constitution, and I would advise everyone to, read it. You could find it pretty easily. 4th Amendment through 8th Amendment is criminal rights amendments. Yeah. And basically what I tell my students, Holly, and you might do the same when you're talking with people, is the reason why the Founding Fathers put 4 amendments into the Constitution about criminal rights is because they understood when the government has decided you are guilty, it's the most dangerous place to be. Right. And at that point, you need protections from the government most of all. Yeah. So that due process, the point is people make mistakes. That happens. The point of the due process is to slow the whole thing down so that any mistake gets caught and prevented from becoming irrevocable.
And, those founding fathers were themselves the ones who were not given due process, right? They were, you had the crown across the ocean, but it was the king who decided what was going to happen. And if you're going to be rounded up and shipped off someplace, he could do it, right? And so it was something that was very personal to them. And I think they had just like you said, a reason for putting it in there. But I think it's something that as Americans, a lot of times we just take for granted that it's going to be given to us. And we're okay with it if it's a bad guy, but we really shouldn't be okay with it.
No, and I think that's kind of the point. The rights go for everybody, even the unsavory characters, because you want to have them, how did you say earlier, for you if you need it. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
If you are a person of good character who accidentally gets caught up in something, this is when you need those rights.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. So I understand totally, Holly, why Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen would visit El Salvador. This is a person who lives in his
Maryland.
state, married to one of his constituents.
Who is a citizen, by the way.
Right, an American citizen. Father to an American citizen who is one of Van Hollen's constituents. But we also know, just to kind of tie it to Utah a little bit, that Utah Congressman Mike Kennedy also visited the prison.
Right.
And a little bit, so tell me what you think. And my goodness, I'm not asking you to speculate, right? Like we would never get into the head of someone to figure out why they were doing something. But Representative Kennedy traveled, spoke with KSL, and said he supports the Trump administration's commitment to investigating who has entered our country and trying to remove hard criminals. He told KSL TV yesterday, that he found the prison in El Salvador very depressing. Did not talk to officials about Abrego Garcia or see him, which makes sense to me. He's not a Utah citizen.
Right.
But what do you think, like, why is it the case, maybe, that Congressman Kennedy has gone down to El Salvador?
So he wasn't the only one, and there have been a number of Republican congressional people who've gone. And some of it, I suspect, is that this is top of the news right now. And so it's one way of seeing for themselves what's actually happening, right? What the conditions are like, right? And it's a way, I think, to say, look, I'm trying to stay on top of the news. He wasn't in Congress when Josh Holt was imprisoned, but Josh Holt had been a Utah citizen, and so there was a lot of involvement with Utah politicians. So it's not that surprising that, again, like you pointed out, that he didn't ask about Abrego Garcia, but he still can say, look, I've been there and I've seen it. And he can say to his constituents from firsthand knowledge now, this is a place where the most hardened of our illegal people who are here illegally, who've been through due process and been convicted, maybe he can say to them, this is a place where I'm comfortable with them going or not comfortable with them going. I don't know. But I will say this, Mike Kennedy is also himself an attorney, so he's got to be thinking about the due process issue as well.
Yeah, right. Right. And also I think conservative probably cares about those constitutional rights we just talked about, and being thoughtful of what does this look like. I mean, I think a little bit when this all started, before we talked about this person accidentally being swept up and sent to El Salvador, we were concerned about moving prisons off-site. And what I was saying to you off the air before we came on, Holly, was we've been concerned about this before.
Yeah.
Right? After 9/11 and right in the wake of 9/11, we had something called extraordinary rendition, when an earlier executive would decide citizens were enemies of the state and take them off-site, exactly like the King of England did 250 years ago.
Seems like a problem.
Yeah, right. Something about these executives that just kind of do this. And the reason why we have due process. So sometimes I do hear people, Holly, saying like it's unprecedented, but I'm like, no, we actually
have done this before.
We've done this before. And it's like whenever national security comes into play, freedom is the other side of that equation, right? If you're worried about national security or just security, it doesn't have to be national security, one of the things that's going to take a hit are individual freedoms.
Right. And, I think part of the conversation that we'll have probably all day today is we should ask ourselves, how would this apply to me if I were in that situation? And, I know the tendency is to say, well, I would never do that. Well, that wouldn't be the case, right? Except that we do know that there have been innocent people who have been swept up and things like this, and people who are doing things legally and, they're getting visas revoked, all of those types of things. We always need to put ourselves, I think, in the situation of, if there's a different administration, because that will happen, what's going to happen then? And B, if I were in his shoes, what would I want to have happen for me?
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's exactly, especially on Good Friday, Highly, the right thing to be thinking about. My biggest question is, everything you said, totally taken. And then also, why is it that I'm at all okay with an executive branch doing this, which feels very unilateral? I'm going to need the judiciary saying it's not okay. They're just kind of avoiding that.
They have been. No, I think they have been saying this is not okay. In fact, they've been saying it in very strong terms, including conservative judges appointed by conservative presidents.
That's right. So next on Inside Sources, Holly, let's take a closer look at that question. Trump administration doubling down on its decision to send deportees to the El Salvadorian prison and how that's affecting kind of the political capital, if you will, of the president and Republican lawmakers nationwide.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty, and right now as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Summer is coming and your family wants to enjoy water in an Arctic Spa all-weather pool. Some people call them swim spas, but we call them all-weather pools because it's like a swimming pool that you can use all year long. My family has a tradition of hanging out in our all-weather pool and watching the neighborhood fireworks on New Year's Eve. You can create that family fun time right now with an Arctic Spa all-weather pool in just 2 days for installation. All the fun without the hassle of pool maintenance. Add in our automatic saltwater system to make it even more comfortable and more convenient. With 8 different models with different jet packages and options, specifically designed for Utah's hot summers and cold winters, we have the perfect all-weather pool for you no matter your budget. Come see the Arctic Spa all-weather pools at one of our Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, or St. George, and online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
It's true. Anyone can paint a room, a wall, a side of a house. It's also true that anyone can groom your pet.
Aw, poor thing. Is he sick?
Well, anyone can trim the trees. Anyone can coach.
Gina, throw it at the net thing.
It's Charlie, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to kick the ball in soccer.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you always should. And when it comes to your home, not everyone can paint with character, integrity, and the knowledge that no one will ever do a better job. And that's who we are. I'm Adam with 5 Star Painting. New paint in your home takes that warm springtime feel to a whole new level. With 5starpainting.com, we offer hands-on management, and our partnership with Sherwin-Williams means we're painting with the industry's best materials. Trust our 20 years of experience, over 1,000 online beaming reviews, and our 2-year warranty that sets us apart from all the others. Remember, anyone can paint a room.
My masterpiece!
Oh, wow.
But the smart choice is 5 Star or nothing. 5starpainting.com.
You're stubborn. Okay, be stubborn. Don't admit you have hearing issues, but they won't go away. You'll just suffer with them. But you don't have to suffer. My Hearing Centers will fit you with a high-tech hearing aid that's powerful and barely noticeable. So if you're suffering from hearing loss, or if you have a hearing aid but it's 3 years or older, you owe it to yourself to schedule a free consultation at My Hearing Centers by calling 801-438-7058. With locations from Ogden to St. George, be smart, not stubborn, with My Hearing Centers.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Through the whole ordeal with sending alleged foreign gang members to the prison in El Salvador, we've talked about the legal and ethical questions like the lack of due process. But in this segment, I want to talk more about the political implications of this whole situation and wondering could El Salvador, which has included planes full of deportees, and Abrego Garcia, the administration's closeness with the El Salvadoran president, could this cause problems going forward? I'd say the obvious answer is yes. I'm Holly Richardson, and I'm co-hosting today with Leah Murray. And one of the things as we have this conversation, Leah, is listeners need to know we are two women with PhDs in political science. So what a fun conversation today.
This is the best 2 hours of radio anyone possibly could be listening to.
Yeah, best. Even though the subject matter is pretty darn serious, actually.
Yes.
So what do you think? More people than just Abrego Garcia being swept up in this?
Yeah, no, and I want to talk about, let's listen to ABC News' Mary Bruce.
Pressed on whether he'll take steps to return Abrego Garcia, the president punting.
Well, I'm not involved in it. I'm going to respond by saying you'll have to speak to the lawyers, the DOJ. I've heard many things about him, and we'll have to find out what the truth is.
The judge is saying that whether or not Abrego Garcia is a gang member is not the issue at hand. The government asserts that he is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. They write, perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process.
So one of my political questions for the president right there is, I'm not involved in it.
Right.
Isn't he, a little bit, isn't he the person who was sitting next to the El Salvadorian president?
Sure.
Isn't he the person who's the great deal maker of our time, who can get all these other countries to come to the table?
He could be involved. Look, he could be involved. He could have a conversation and say, look, he needs to come back. We already know the administration has admitted they made an administrative error, but they're also saying right now that he's not going to come back. They're not going to let him back into the United States. So where does that leave us in due process and constitutional rights, right? That everyone in the United States is entitled to due process.
Right. I love how in this, the government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist. And again, my point, the government doesn't just get to decide
right.
that you are a terrorist.
There is a process.
Right, right. And the answer actually is with this man.
Yeah.
In 2019, the government tried to prove he was the first time, and at that point found out that he wasn't. So actually due process happened.
And that he was, in fact, in danger if he was to be sent back to El Salvador. So, yeah, and again, I think it's broader than just this one person. We know that there are multiple instances now across the United States where people have been accidentally or not, but swept up and sent to El Salvador. And maybe it's the man who has the tattoos of mom and dad with a crown over the top. Those are not gang tattoos. He was honoring his mother and his father. And, it's stuff like that where he has been identified as somebody who has no criminal record, and yet here he sits in this prison with a life sentence, basically.
Yeah, and I think it's a scary place when the government decides, I think you're in a gang because you have a tattoo.
Right.
Or I think you're in a gang because of a T-shirt that you wore.
That's right.
Right? Or I think with the Abrego Garcia original, it was like he was wearing a jersey of the Chicago Bulls. I think. So don't quote me on that really specifically, but it was something like that. And Holly, again, I don't really think you should be a Bulls fan, but a little bit. I'm not sure that's enough to be hauled in.
Right.
And it's not just President Trump. So let's listen to what was going on in Iowa with Senator Chuck Grassley.
We would like to know what you, as the people, the Congress, who are supposed to rein in this dictator, what are you going to do about it? These people have been sentenced to life imprisonment in a foreign country with no due process.
Exactly what you just said. And now let's listen to what Senator Grassley said in response.
It's not a question of the president following the court order. It's a question of, is the president of El Salvador going to do what our Supreme Court wants done? And obviously, our Supreme Court doesn't have any control over him, and he says he's not going to return him. So what would you, if there's a constitutional crisis, it's not being caused by President Trump, it's being caused by the president of El Salvador.
So I probably disagree with the senator right there on that last statement. The reason we're in this constitutional crisis is because the Trump administration deported Abrego Garcia to El Salvador.
Right. And, one of the things it reminds me of is that old saying of, if somebody has to be responsible, but it's if it's somebody, it could be anybody, and then it's nobody, right? And I totally mangled that quote, but basically they're passing the buck, right? And they're just saying, well, it's not my responsibility. It's not my fault. I'm not involved in it. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah,
right?
Don't you think a little bit, Senator Grassley, how do I say? I'm not sure that Republican Congress people know where this is going to land.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel
Right?
like it's a big problem.
Yeah.
I think it's possible this is the big problem that actually sticks. Like, I think
It's-
President Trump is good at, like, not having stuff stick to him. But
It for
this
sure
one-
has legs.
Yeah, it's got legs. It's
Yep.
got traction. We are
Yep.
talking about it a lot.
Yep.
So you're Senator Grassley, and you're like, this is not something I want to be defending, right? But I don't necessarily want to go against
Yeah.
President Trump on
Well,
this.
it's not his fault. It's the president of El Salvador's fault.
Right. I mean, so in our last segment, we chatted about our own Congressmember Mike Kennedy. I mean, while we were talking, he was on News Nation Live talking about the due process. So let's just listen into what Kennedy said.
Due process is more important than any individual, and I think the constitutionality of that and the fact that we should adhere to due process, the foundation of some of our constitutional privileges. When it comes to that, though, in this case, due process is still a debatable matter, but the Supreme Court has determined this individual needs to be facilitated to come back. That word facilitate is important.
Yeah.
Attorney General Bondi has said that if Bukele releases, President Bukele from El Salvador releases this individual, that we can facilitate by sending a plane. So that's all in the process right now. And as to facilitation, the Supreme Court has rendered its opinion, but this is a sovereign nation and we can't force President Bukele to release this individual.
So that's a different message than what we heard from Senator Grassley,
Yeah.
right? Because it does feel like some progress maybe has happened in this case. But I hear our congressman absolutely sounding like us. Due process
Yep.
matters.
Yeah, it does matter. And, I think that's one of the things where, look, you can't, I agree, you can't force another president of another country to do what you want. However, there are diplomatic channels. I think that when the U.S. Supreme Court says, and 9-0, you must do this, that there are lots of things that haven't been tried. Right. But you've got diplomatic, but you've got people showing up. You've got a president who could call him on the phone and say, hey, I want you to release this guy. You got to send him back because this is tanking my poll numbers. I don't know.
Yeah, and at the same time, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt telling everybody he's never coming back. He's not going to live a life in Maryland. Somehow, too, I think politically. So again, I don't want to impute any, motives to anybody, right, Holly? I'm not in these rooms where the conversations are happening. But this is mixed signaling, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think we've seen this from the administration before, right, is even with the tariffs, right? You've got, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Oh, wait, never mind, we're backing off. Or vice versa. We're not going to do this, we're not going to do this. Oh, wait, we just did, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that happens, and sometimes it's to keep things on the down low. I don't know. I mean, this is a highly publicized case, but I think there's ongoing efforts as well, or I hope there are. I know with attorneys being involved, with other people who have been wrongly swept up in these raids, right, and sent out of the country.
Yeah, and what's interesting is Abrego Garcia, his wife, when she speaks, like, my heart breaks.
Yeah, she
right?
cries,
Like,
right?
And my heart breaks, right? So a little bit, man, if I were Trump, what did you just say? Like, with the tariffs, it's like, I want to pull back on tariffs because my polls are tanking. I might want to get this guy back because this story that has traction politically, that is causing town halls to erupt in Iowa, probably is a story I need to stop. And if I can bring this guy home, the story stops.
Yeah, and and you can look like the hero, right? It's like, just like Congressman Kennedy just said, due process matters more than the individual, and everyone in this country is entitled to due process. Everyone. It exists for people who have committed crimes. Right. That's why we have due process.
Right. And the other thing I love too, because it's due process, but also when the Supreme Court says something, guess what? That's the rule of law.
Right.
That is the constitutional supremacy, and you're supposed to do what they tell you.
The Republican Party has long campaigned on the rule of law. Right. We believe in the rule of law.
Exactly.
So here's their opportunity to show it. So we, okay. We're going to talk, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the U.S. maybe trying to give up on a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that's a possibility, and that'll be when we come back.
1:29 at KSL News Radio. I'm Heather Peterson. KSL's top story, we're hearing from the family of Desiree Turner that after 8 years of fighting, Turner has passed away. KSL reported earlier this month that Turner's health had taken a turn for the worse and she would not have much time left. Turner was just 14 when she was shot and left for dead in 2017 in Smithfield. She was left partially paralyzed and struggled to see and walk. Turner went on to undergo dozens of procedures and surgeries, all while inspiring her community with her strength. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying the U.S. may move on from efforts to try and end the war in Ukraine.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio just before leaving Paris.
We're not going to continue to fly all over the world and do meeting after meeting after meeting if no progress is being made. So if they're serious about peace, either side or both, we want to help. If it's not going to happen, then we're just going to move on.
Rubio and White House envoy Steve Witkoff were in the French capital to meet with their European counterparts just days after Witkoff met with the Russian president in Moscow. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News, Paris.
Real Salt Lake has new ownership for the first time in more than 3 years. The Larry H. Miller Company announced today they have purchased controlling interest in RSL and the Utah Royals from the Smith Entertainment Group. Your money at this moment, the markets are actually closed for Good Friday today. Coming up, sunny skies for Easter this weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s. And less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635 and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or It's Free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Tito Nani.
We have an accident at the intersection of 2500 West and westbound Alabama Drive in Syracuse. Also still busy and slow from an accident earlier at southbound I-15 at the South Interchange in Murray. Remember, our KSL Mountain Home Services text line is always open at 575-00. Water belongs in pipes, not in your yard or on your floor. Call Utah Utility Pro, your leak detection and repair specialists. Water, sewer, main, and gas lines. Utah Utility Pro, utahutilitypro.com. I'm Tito Nani in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 50 degrees today. Things warm up tomorrow with sun and a high of 57. 66 on Sunday for Easter with partly cloudy skies. Right now it's mostly cloudy and 45 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Calm and Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
One of President Trump's campaign promises was to broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine and end the war. He said he could do it in 24 hours. But no deal has been reached, and both sides have dug in. And now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the administration may step away altogether if a peace deal isn't reached within a few days.
So if they're serious about peace, either side or both, we want to help. If it's not going to happen, then we're just going to move on. I think it's important to remind everybody that the Ukraine war is a terrible thing, but it's not our war. We didn't start it. The United States has been helping Ukraine over the last 3 years, and we want it to end. But we're not going to continue with this endeavor for weeks and months on end. So we need to determine very quickly now, and I'm talking about in a matter of days, whether or not this is doable over the next few weeks. If it is, we're in. If it's not, then we have other priorities to focus on as well.
It's interesting. So I was kind of reading an article in Reuters where Trump officials acknowledging privately that the chances of the peace are, how do I say that? These comments are because Russia is being stubborn.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear who hasn't come to the table. So Ukraine has been talking about mineral deals. They've got at least the outline of a deal with that. They have talked about the ceasefire. They're there at the table, and Russia just keeps sending bombs.
Right, and it's interesting, Ukraine really did not choose to be invaded.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So when the Secretary of State says, we didn't start this war, right,
neither
Russia
did. Ukraine. Yeah,
right, Ukraine did
clear.
Not either.
Yep.
Let's be clear. But here, let me ask you the political question, my political science friend. So President Trump promised, as many candidates on the campaign trail do, to do amazing things that are impossible to actually achieve.
Right.
But one of his promises was to end the war on the first day in office. So I'm asking you again. I've already asked this question, and you can just laugh at me. But, is this more evidence that actually he's not the deal maker that maybe American voters voted for? So if you were frustrated with the war in Ukraine and you felt like I'm voting for Trump because Putin will come to the table because Trump is the deal maker and Putin's going to totally abide, is this just more evidence that actually, like I said earlier with El Salvador, right, that Trump actually has a hard time getting these other national leaders to do what he wants them to do?
Maybe. And maybe it really is that it's much more complicated than just saying we're going to have two people sit down at the table and pound out an agreement and magically it's all over. It's much more complicated than that. And, I think the talking point for Ukraine is we're willing to stop as soon as Russia's willing to stop invading us and let us be a sovereign country, right? But I think they're correct in defending themselves. If we had Canada invade us, right, or Mexico, I think we would be outraged to say, come to the table and you only have to give up 5 states, right, or out of the 50, or you only have to give up 10 states, and then everything will be fine. So just agree to that. What's your problem?
Yeah, no, and I think it's interesting. I mean, I want to say I'm very clearly the United States should stand with its allies against aggression, right? Yeah. So on this show, I have been very pro-Ukraine and I've been pro-Israel. So I want to just be clear, I kind of land there. And I feel like we should support them against people who I feel behaved badly. So I understand the frustration. Of course, Russia's behaving badly. Right? Of course they are. They started this with this. What I think is interesting, you said this earlier, so let me just ask you about it. Rubio says, we are going to pull out. This is not
Right.
something we want to do for weeks and years. At the same time that they've been announcing that there's a minerals deal.
Right.
So if the United States gets access to Ukraine's vast mineral resources, but if we pull out from a peace deal, how do we still get those minerals? I thought that minerals deal was in the best interest of Ukraine because I thought it kind of
In exchange for, yeah.
Yeah, well, it kind of would keep the Trump administration interested, right? In
Yeah.
staying for the long haul. What do you think?
I think President Zelensky has personal experience in knowing how to deal with this administration. I personally don't think that there will be a deal signed that gives away their rights without something for Ukraine in return. And so if the U.S. walks away from peace negotiations, what is the incentive for Ukraine to give away their minerals? It's nothing, right? They want military support or assurances. There's got to be something. It's an exchange. It's not just a gimme from Ukraine to the U.S. So I think that's part of the negotiations, right? And it just these talks take time, especially when you have a really recalcitrant party that is just like, I'm not coming to the table and you can't make me.
Yeah, and your point's so well taken. Ukraine is at the table, reasonably having a conversation about minerals, right? Reasonably saying, what do I need to do in this game of chess to get some help from the United States? And Russian drones are targeting a bakery, and dozens of people are dying
on Good Friday.
On Good
right?
Friday, and last week on Palm Sunday, and really not behaving reasonably at all.
Yeah.
My question is, do you think President Trump is surprised? Like, I wonder if he actually thought, oh, no, like Putin and I are buds, right? Like, and when I come in, Putin's going to totally do what I want him to do.
I think he might be surprised. I think he might actually be. I don't know for sure, but I think he might be. One of the things I think, too, about Ukraine is that they're also being wise in additional allies. The U.S. is undergoing right now a fundamental shift in our foreign policy. And it's really disconcerting for a lot of the world, but it is recreating alliances. Certainly, the European Union has really solidified in their support of Ukraine, and Ukraine knows, right? And they're reaching out to Canada, and they're trying to make sure that they have not just one option on the table, but multiple options for staying alive as a country.
Yeah, interesting. We've talked about this on KSL at Night earlier and Inside Sources a lot. And one of the things that bothers me about all of this is Ukraine had more nuclear weapons, right, than anybody on the planet. Like 30 years ago.
They gave them up because we
up.
promised security.
That is right.
That
the United States
right.
promised that we would protect them against Russia.
If they gave up their nukes. Yep.
Yeah, and a little bit it's like, so when I hear people say, we don't want to be in this war, and it's kind of like, the reason they couldn't defend themselves in the first place is because we asked them to agree to nuclear non-proliferation, which mattered to us. We promised to stay the course.
Yep.
And man, we look weak sauce. I cannot stand.
It makes us an unreliable partner for sure, right? An unreliable ally when people are looking at it. If I make a deal with them, if I make a treaty with them, are they going to stand by that? Well, we have evidence now that we won't.
That's right. And it also makes us look, I think, weak. So if you are China and you are interested in being aggressive, if you're North Korea and you're being interested in being aggressive, there is no, how do I say, right? When we left Afghanistan,
right,
the way we did it looked weak, right? And many people kind of argue that emboldened Putin to invade Ukraine, right? So it's not always just this one-to-one. You know what I mean, Holly?
Yeah, for sure. It's not a one-to-one. Yeah, it's not a one-to-one. And we'll talk a little bit later about some of the human rights stuff and some of the other things going on. But one of the things that we've done is, as we have shifted as a nation our foreign policy approach, we have literally thrown open the door to China and say, just come in and take over for us. You can do development projects. You can do medical projects. You can do Belt and Road projects all over Africa, right? And we just gave up all of our soft power.
Yeah. And a little bit, I think, everyone who is excited that that's a good idea is not thinking about the long-term consequences of not being the people in the room when the conversations happen anymore.
Yeah.
And the scariness of a Chinese regime being in charge of everything. Right? Like for me, it's just.
I mean, for years we've said they're our key opponent, right? China and Russia. That's who we need to be aware of. And we just threw open the door and said, here, come take over.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So coming up next, actually, we'll talk about the State Department and how they're making huge changes to the way the U.S. tracks and reports on human rights violations. It's a really big deal. So we'll talk about the modifications they're making and why coming up next.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Today, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Listen up, Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos, fanny packs, even the World Wide Web. So let's do it again and get vaccinated. We're at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults under 50. Gen X, this is our shot. Visit vaxassist.com to schedule. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Greg Carlisle here for Jordan Camper, your truck accessory headquarters at 7000 South State in Midville. Why do I mention my name? For years, I've been the radio voice for Jordan Camper commercials, but I wanted to speak to you as a satisfied customer this time. I love the Line-X protective coating they sprayed on my front and back bumpers of my 2005 Mustang over 5 years ago, and it still looks new. Line-X is famous for durable truck bed coatings with a lifetime warranty. Jordan Camper is family-owned for 5 generations, and their team has over a combined 175 years in team experience installing truck accessories. I've seen them complete work for hundreds of satisfied customers over the years. These guys are good. Jordan Camper specializes in truck top shells and folding, retractable, and one-piece truck bed covers, and a wide range of accessories from fender flares, floor mats to towing products. Check out their great showroom at 7000 South State in Midvale. More information at jordancamper.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Over the years, the United States State Department has broadened its definitions of what constitutes a human right. And their reports have tracked those. Maybe not the human rights so much, Holly, but like the violations of those human rights.
Right.
But now it appears there's a narrowing in on what human rights violations we actually think rise to the level of being tracked. So it's not about like, what is China doing? It's about like, do we think that we should get rid of tracking involuntary or coercive medical or psychological practices, arbitrary or unlawful interference with privacy, serious restrictions to internet freedom, extensive gender-based violence, violence or threats of violence targeting people with disabilities?
I think these are deeply concerning, right?
Okay, yeah.
We're going to stop tracking these things.
Shocker. I totally agree with you, Holly. But like, so do you, all right. So actually what you just said made me think about it. Is it at the point that if we stop tracking them, does that actually have an impact, Holly?
Well, sure it does, right? So we know that what you track, what you measure, right, you can fix or you can have solutions. If you don't track it, it's as if it's not happening, which of course it is happening. And if you're doing it under the radar because it's not being tracked anymore, then I think the natural extension is that these violations are going to increase. So this is a global document, and there are countries that are significantly worse, right, with like women's rights, for example. So I'll point to Afghanistan, which is probably the worst in the world, but women cannot even have their voice heard in public anymore. It's prohibited by law, right? They will not allow girls to go to school past the 6th grade. They've restricted professions, even midwifery, which is females helping to deliver babies. They've even restricted that, right? So that really, it's just when you're saying we're not going to track extreme gender-based violence, or we're not going to track what people do to people with disabilities, deeply concerning.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. So we off the air, and so let's just get into it a little bit on the air, was like, what is the chicken and what is the egg, right? So we were kind of asking, why are we changing these definitions now? Or I think you had told me, so correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe there were conversations about changing the definitions actually earlier.
Yeah, this is from NPR, right? And they're saying that typically these reports are released in March or April, and the draft document was produced in January this year before President Trump was inaugurated, but they're still undergoing changes right now, and they don't anticipate that the U.S. report is going to be released until May. So they're looking at even things like prisons, right? So the section on prison condition, gone. The only thing that's left is prison deaths that fall into the category of extrajudicial killing.
So not death penalty.
Right.
Right. States are allowed to do death penalty.
Right.
But if you die and it wasn't the death penalty, then they're going to track
right.
that.
But now the section about just conditions in general is gone. Right.
So that was my question. Like, so did I decide to change this rule because I'm deporting people to El Salvador and I don't want people asking questions about human rights violations in that El Salvadorian prison? But another piece too, so let me just get your thoughts on this, Holly, that one of the things is forcibly returning a refugee or an asylum seeker to a home country probably depends a little bit on whether that home country does extensive gender-based violence or does serious violence and threats against people with disabilities.
Right.
So a little bit I wonder, maybe it's about the El Salvadorian prison, and maybe also, not necessarily only, but you know what I mean, like,
Right.
and we could add to it, about if I want to be able to deport more people, I need to narrow the field of opportunity for them to claim asylum.
Right.
So what I need to do is say I'm no longer tracking human rights violations so that I can send people back to countries that otherwise, without this report, we might have thought was unsafe.
Well, the thing with seeking asylum, right, is those are people who are under threat for, it can be a category that they belong to. It can be a religious group. It can be people with disabilities. I mean, certainly we know there are countries that still kill people with disabilities because they feel like they're not worthwhile to society. Those are issues, I think, where you start looking at it and saying, okay, people who are seeking asylum are coming here because they are in danger. They're in mortal danger, meaning they could lose their lives if they stay where they are. So now we want them to go back to where they were under threat already. I mean, really the argument becomes, are we okay with sending people back to be killed? They're not coming from insane asylums. Seeking asylum in the United States is a very different process. It doesn't have anything to do with mental health. It has to do with, are you under threat in where you are, right? And some of these countries still have rape, for example, as a property crime. Not a personal crime against the woman,
Right.
a property crime against the man, her father or her spouse, right? Horrible.
Right. Not acceptable.
Right.
I'm going to just tell you, listeners, Holly and I do not think that's acceptable. Another possible chicken and egg or explanation, one of the reports was about Hungary and this section on corruption in government. So many people have referred to Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban as an authoritarian. President Trump calls him a great man and a great leader in Europe. So a little bit, if I want Hungary to be wonderful, I need to strike from my record corruption in government as something that's a problem.
That's right. That's right. So Hungary actually also has a human rights organization. It's one of their oldest. It's the Hungarian Helsinki Committee. But the leader of that one says, look, the policy, the State Department's new policy weakens the position of human rights defenders in countries like that, especially countries that have a problematic track record. And he just says flat out, you're removing pressure, and it sends a message that it's not important for the U.S. anymore.
Yeah, so I want to just tell you all, you're here with Leah Murray, and I'm alongside Holly Richardson, who is a political science PhD just like me. However, she's got expertise in international relations, which I do not. But what I know about my international relations colleagues and friends is, man, you guys think about this a lot. These human rights conversations and how important, how we define them, like how that matters. Tell us, like, what are the long-term ramifications of the United States signaling these things are okay?
Well, I mean, it's like telling any bully, right? It's okay to, beat the kid up on the playground. So I'm not necessarily saying the United States is doing that, although we have set ourselves up to do that. But long term, it's the loss of soft power. So hard power is the military and war, weapons. But soft power is this ability to make change because we're feeding people. We're making sure that women aren't being gang raped and having, rape used as a weapon of war or those types of things, right? And when you give the message that we don't care about these things anymore, it emboldens the people who think that those behaviors are okay. And it emboldens the hate. And long term, trying to reverse that, this is not something that you can say, okay, now we agree again. It's not going to change on a dime with a shift in administration or a shift in who holds the Senate and the House. We have lost trust across the world because of actions we've taken in the last couple of months.
Yeah, so we talked about this in the last segment about other actors that might step in.
Yep.
Like, I fully don't expect China to step in to defend human rights.
Nope.
But I do wonder if European nations might.
Yeah, for sure. European nations are still stepping in. And, China, I think China is probably okay with not stepping in on this issue, but they will step in on other issues, right? They have already gone to lots of countries that lost USAID funds and said, hey, we'll help take care of you. They're there. And it always comes with a string, always.
Right. So that soft power vacuum that we left.
Yep.
by
It's being
signaling
filled.
that we don't care is being filled by other actors.
Just like we left a vacuum in Afghanistan, we have done that with soft power.
Yeah, so it's like we are becoming more and more irrelevant.
We're just more isolationist, right? So if we're saying America's first, that we're showing that to the world. We don't care about you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right, Holly? And I think maybe it's time in our second hour. Let's shift some gears. Let's go to some local political stories. Utah's voter rolls. What do voters think Congress should be spending its time and money on? That's all coming up in our next hour.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan, KSL's top local story this hour. We're finally learning more about the investigation into the deaths of an 8-year-old and his mother in Saratoga Springs. Search warrants obtained by KSL say that the police are looking into the phones of both the mother, Jessica Lyman, and her 2 teens. They believe Lyman may have used the phone to communicate with someone before the incident, and it may contain evidence of the crime. There were also warrants for the cars in front of the house, doorbell camera footage, and clothing and other personal items from inside. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration is resisting a court order to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the U.S., claiming he's a member of MS-13. Here's ABC's Selena Wang.
The president today, he called it a shame that Senator Van Hollen went to meet with him in El Salvador, and really doubling down on this broader argument that they are slamming and accusing Democrats for sympathizing with someone who they accuse as being a violent gang member. Now, that is despite the fact that this man has no criminal conviction.
Garcia's wife tells ABC News that her husband is not a member of any gang. Your money at this moment, well, you didn't lose any today. The markets are closed for Good Friday. Coming up, we have a little bit of warmer weather on the way for the weekend. Stay with us. The KSL forecast is coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Do you want to make your house more comfortable, more energy efficient, more valuable? Well, maybe it's time you took a look at your doors and windows. And there's nobody around who does doors and windows better than Peach Doors and Windows.
Improve the functionality of your home with custom replacement windows, entry doors, patio doors. Maybe you have a sunroom or you want a new custom front door and windows to maximize the beauty of your home. Peach offers flexible financing available to fit any budget. They've got expert installation, including fiberglass doors, which are their specialty, and they'll replace your windows with the highest energy efficiency rating.
And customer service is a top priority. It's the reason why they have so many 5-star reviews on Google. You can check it out for yourself. You can also check them out online at peachbuildingproducts.com. You can call for a free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255.
Or see them in person, 2940 South 300 West in Salt Lake City. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Go check out their beautiful showroom. It's Peach Doors and Windows.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Checking with built-in benefits. Here's Tito Nani.
The accident from earlier at the intersection of 25th West and westbound Antelope Drive in Syracuse is cleared with all lanes now open. We do have a new accident, however, at westbound SR20 run around 1600 West, but it is out of traffic and on the shoulder to the right. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialists. Whipple that away. Tito Nani in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL forecast, sunshine tomorrow with a high of 57. Easter Sunday, a few clouds up to 66 degrees. Right now it's brisk. 46 in Salt Lake City. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Utah's lieutenant governor says her office will conduct a thorough audit of the state's voter rolls, looking for vulnerabilities or areas where non-citizens might be able to get in and vote. This following the lieutenant governor voicing concerns with Utah Senators Mike Lee's SAVE Act, and then Elon Musk shouts it out on X. So this is kind of interesting. Basically, she says a bill making its way through Congress would require anyone registering to vote to provide proof of U.S. citizenship, something Utah Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson says is problematic and impractical. Elon Musk responds, those who oppose proof of citizenship for voting are traitors to America. This post got over 100,000 views. So now our lieutenant governor, she's famous, maybe in circles she wasn't expecting to be famous in. Holly, can we just talk about this first before we get to the audit, which is the interesting thing? Why it is that proving that you are a citizen can be problematic. So I just want to use you and I as a case in point.
Sure.
Listeners, you've got Leah Murray alongside Holly Richardson. We are both women.
Yep.
My last name is my father's last name, so it matches my birth certificate that I have had my whole life, and it's all from 1974, so it's very barely staying together. But your last name doesn't.
It's my married name, and my maiden name, of course, the name I was born with, is different on my birth certificate. So I was born a holly tree. It's a totally true story.
First of all, that is the best name I have ever heard, and you shouldn't have changed it, Holly. That is beautiful.
I'm a December baby, right before Christmas. But look, so here's the issue. If you have to prove that your name is the same as your birth name, it doesn't really impact men. It impacts women, right? And people saying the easy solution is go get a passport. Well, I have a passport. It costs $165, right? It's $130 for the regular fee and $35 for a processing fee. And I can do that, but not everybody can do that. And not everybody has the means to say, oh, I have a divorce decree. Oh, I changed my name again. I have to go back and do something different, right? And I think that's one of the issues, right? People aren't saying we're opposed to citizens voting. They're not saying that. What they're saying is you are making it harder for women to vote.
Yeah, and your point right there on the how much it costs to get a passport.
Right.
And like you, I have one, right? Yeah. I just feel like you should have one. You never know, right? Like when you might want to travel. But that does cost money.
Yeah.
And the 24th Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibits Congress from requiring, both of them, a payment of any kind of tax to be able to vote.
Right.
So if the answer is my birth certificate is not good enough, because it doesn't match my driver's license because I got married and took my husband's name.
Changed my name.
Which,
Yep.
by the way, many women do. I'm the weirdo, right? You are totally, like
certainly
the norm,
it's still
right?
the norm, yeah.
So if it is the case that my birth certificate doesn't match my driver's license, and your answer is go pay a couple $100s to get a passport, Holly, that's a poll tax.
It kind of sounds like a poll tax, right? And that's the argument. And, I think Governor Cox yesterday said he thought that had been debunked, but I have gone and looked, and I haven't seen anywhere where those requirements have been debunked or that argument against this the SAVE Act, right? And I think, again, to be clear, nobody is saying we think non-citizens should vote. We know that is one of the rights of citizenship in the United States is the right to vote. What people are saying, including myself, is you are making it much more difficult for half of the population to be able to vote.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's kind of in the, I hate governing by tweet, or what do they call it on X? It's not tweet anymore.
X.
I don't know, post, whatever. So Musk's claim that those who oppose proof of citizenship for voting are traitors to America, of course, is blunt and is not nuanced in the conversation.
Right.
And I imagine if Mr. Musk were sitting here with us and we were kind of like, look, Holly might have an issue or she might have to pay for a passport and maybe that's not fair. I think he's an intelligent man. He might go, oh, all right, that's reasonable. But it's like the conversation's not reasonable.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And when you're a multi-gazillionaire, right, have you ever worried about paying $200? Probably not.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
fair.
have at my family, right? And we're like, okay, well, how do we stagger applying for passports or whatever it is? Because we can't afford to get them for all the kids at one time because we had a gazillion of those.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right. That's
so,
right.
So anyway, it feels out of touch to me. And of course, I think it's a ridiculous attack on the lieutenant governor of the state who says, look, there are concerns here and this is why. And it's those concerns about women.
All right. So the lieutenant governor announced an audit, which is what we started the whole segment with, and then I derailed us into the conversation about being women. So basically she says, her tweet is, my office is conducting a full citizenship audit of Utah's voter rolls, similar to those recently conducted by other states. The audit will give us insight into the scope of any current problems and vulnerabilities and help us identify what changes might be needed to ensure that only eligible citizens are voting. So I just want to say, like right here, I differ maybe from, Governor Cox, who supports the SAVE Act, or Senator Lee, who wrote the SAVE Act, when I say I actually feel like we don't have citizens voting. I think our elections officials across the country have been doing their due diligence and doing it well and making sure when people register to vote that only people who are eligible, which means you have to be a citizen, are actually voting.
Right.
So a little bit, I feel like, how much are we going to spend on this audit to prove something that we all already knew was true because we trust our elections officials?
Yeah, but we don't trust them, and that's the issue.
All right, go.
Right,
Yeah.
that's the issue is across the United States, members of the public have lost trust in institutions. That includes election offices, elections officials. I mean, I think you can see that. It quieted down a lot after Trump won in November, but a lot of it leading up to it was we just can't trust him. And we're still replaying 2020 with people saying it was stolen. It was not stolen, right? Trump lost. But I really think it's a solution in search of a problem. It really isn't that big of an issue. I think I've seen people pointed to two people who were not legal citizens who actually voted. And that's okay, you do have a margin of error, right? Where occasionally somebody might be able to get through the system, but we don't really have a broad problem of non-citizens voting. So I think what this audit will prove is that we don't have a big problem of non-citizens voting.
Holly, can we do a little political science exercise for a moment? Conventional wisdom used to be, and maybe still is, that Democrats would say, we need every possible voter voting for us to win. And Republicans would say, maybe not, right? But I actually think this is going to hurt Republican voting. Because what I'm going to tell you is conservative women probably took their husband's name.
That's probably true, right? And that is one of the issues, right? And we've seen this in political polling, actually, that a lot of conservative women, at least when they answer the polls, they will say they will vote how their husband tells them to vote. But if they cannot vote, they won't, right? If there's too many barriers, they just trust their husband to make the vote for the household.
That's right. So what that means is they won't. So now you've cut in half the vote for Republicans, the Republican vote share,
right?
In places. And Utah maybe doesn't matter, but Arizona might.
Yeah.
So you pass this SAVE Act based on conventional wisdom that says elections are stolen, which, by the way, I just don't believe. And you do it in such a way that disenfranchises whole groups of people who would vote Republican. In states that are purple swing states.
It doesn't make a lot of sense on its surface, right? But it's a message bill. In my opinion, it's a message bill. And it says, we're going to make sure we have safe and secure elections and only citizens are voting. Aren't I great for running and passing this bill, right? And I know that there are people who are going to disagree with this and say, you know, we really need to clamp down on election security. I understand that point of view. I'm just saying there's not really the gigantic problem that some people think that there is.
Yep. So coming up on Inside Sources, you mentioned Governor Cox talking in his presser. We're going to dig a little bit more into that, about the revocation of visas in Utah. Stay with us.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-371-0505. 800-371-0505.
Spring fever is heating up and Motor Sportsland's Markdown Madness event is just beginning. Don't miss your chance to save big on your dream RV. Now through April 26th, score unbeatable deals on Utah's best RV selection. New travel trailers from $5 a day, fifth wheels from $14, and motorhomes starting at just $35 a day. With no hidden fees, just upfront pricing and a low-pressure buying environment. And mark your calendar for RV University, April 26th. Free seminars led by top manufacturers and our expert team. Seating is limited, so reserve your spot now at motorsportsland.com. For over 55 years, families have trusted Motorsportsland for honest pricing, flexible financing, expert service, and the best parts inventory in Utah. Markdown Madness ends April 26th, so come into a Motorsportsland RV Center today and let us help you get away.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag with a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, Junior Hot and Crispy Fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
Unlimited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California and via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Today, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors to tell you about our 10-year everything guarantee. Most contractors spout off having great warranties that last forever. But those warranties are always, and I do mean always, riddled with loopholes, exception, fine print, and nonsense. At RGS Exteriors, we cover everything. Parts, labor, material, everything and anything for 10 full years. There's no cost to you whatsoever. No hoops to jump through, no exceptions. Yes, the products we sell, like James Hardy Siding, our windows, gutter covers, come with a 25 to 50-year manufacturer's warranty, just like everybody else. But the truth is, the products almost never fail. It's always the labor and material which is never covered, so you're stuck paying for service calls. For peace of mind, call RGS Exteriors. You'll sleep easy for 10 full years. 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online rgsutah.com. Gutters, siding, windows, and all exteriors with the 10-year everything guarantee.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
And we're back. This is Holly Richardson, and I'm with Leah Murray, and we are having a really great conversation. I want to just make a note on the last segment. Sometimes it is easy to gather all the documents we need to prove that we've changed our name. Maybe we've changed it more than once. Maybe we've gotten divorced and remarried. I don't know, right? But I think the bottom line is, for women, we need to get more and show up with more than the male voters. That's the bottom line.
And that's the point I think that we are pinging off of, and Lieutenant Governor's pinging off of.
Yeah.
That kind of inherent unfairness.
Yeah, the playing field is not level.
Correct.
Right? The requirements to vote are not level. Okay, now I want to talk about what's happening in higher ed, right? And we're not talking about deporting people who came illegally. We're talking about people who are here legally, and they're having their student visas revoked. And so we have students across the state, I think at every public institution, and we know for sure at BYU, who have had student visas revoked now. And Governor Cox spoke about that yesterday when he did his press conference. So we're going to listen to what he said on that.
We've asked the administration for more information. We've asked them to give us a little bit of a heads up when these things are happening. We'd like to understand better what the criteria are for those changes. Certainly, we know that there were some that had criminal backgrounds that we were not aware of, that the universities were not aware of. Others, that does not appear to be the case, and so we would very much like to figure that out.
So yeah, we've got and I kind of feel like our conversation earlier in the first hour, there always seems to be like an archetype case, right? So for this, it's BYU student Suguru Onda, a husband and father of 5 from Japan, whose student visa was revoked because of a couple of speeding tickets and that he harvested more fish than his fishing license allowed.
Right. That he did on an LDS ward activity, by the way, and they dropped everything associated with that. It's just a weird thing, right? He's here. One of the things that Donald Trump said in the past is we want to attract the most talented and the brightest from other countries to come to the U.S. We know how important those visas are, and now we're yanking them.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. Right?
It doesn't make sense. And I love the immigration attorney saying attracting the best and deporting violent criminals, right? Like, that's the whole point.
Right.
So the story on the El Salvador that we talked earlier is maybe he's a member of this gang. Yeah, Onda's not a member of a gang, right?
Oh,
and
he has 5 kids, man.
The violent thing he did was keep an extra fish. That doesn't seem to be a crime that involves moral turpitude.
Right.
It is not drugs. It's not trafficking. It's not... Right, domestic
it's not
violence.
domestic. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Not domestic
nothing.
violence. None of those things. Yeah.
So,
and
yeah, go ahead.
It's the issue, right? Is the expansion, right? So the whole we're going to deport violent criminals who are here illegally has expanded to we're going to deport legal green card holders. We're going to deport legal visa holders. We're going to deport people who are here and have sought asylum legally and it's been granted. We're just going to revoke the asylum. We're going to revoke the temporary protective status. I mean, these are some really big changes from off, I think, what people were expecting was going to happen.
Yeah, we have discussed on this show a bit, Holly. They are maybe revoking, we've heard Marco Rubio saying, we'll revoke people's, if they don't like Israel. So if you're part of a pro-Palestinian protest, right, you're going to be deported. You're going to have your visa revoked. They're using
or a student written op-ed, right?
Yeah. So they're using data analytic tools to scour international students' social media histories.
Yeah. For me, it hits at a couple of things. One is First Amendment rights, right? Everybody in this country has the right to free speech, right? They have the right to have their opinion. And I think it's concerning when we've got an administration that says we now want the State Department to investigate if anybody working within the department has posted anything that's anti-Christian. Right. Well, holy cow, then you open a whole nother can of worms. What happens with freedom of religion, right? The state does not exist to create the religion we're supposed to belong to, right? We don't have a state religion in the United States.
Yeah.
So the higher ed community, it's really right. It's really been a topic of conversation, at least in my house, because it's just such a huge issue. So you have the federal government that's revoking funding from public universities, but you also have the state government who is telling state universities you've got to restrict and contract and realign, right? So we've got layoffs going on at the local level, and now we have students getting visas revoked, and the government is now going after Harvard, which is actually a private institution.
Right. So let's listen to Governor Cox again with his thoughts on Harvard's possibly losing its tax-exempt status.
Despite my significant disagreements with Harvard, I would be very wary. And by the way, Harvard has tons of money. Maybe it does make sense that universities with those types of endowments should pay some taxes, right? We can have that discussion, and I think it's a worthy discussion. Lots of discussions about these big endowments, and are they doing what they were intended to do, and should there be public funding or public subsidies for that type of thing? I'm absolutely open to that conversation, but when we do it for ideological purposes, I try to imagine what happens if my team loses another election, and what that means then for imagine a world where a Gavin Newsom gets elected president and decides that he wants to go after conservative causes, right? That he thinks religion should not be exempt, and then we have institutions in our state like Brigham Young University or a church that is headquartered here who is now facing the very real possibility of that type of backlash, or imagine going after Second Amendment groups who believe in gun safety and taking away their tax exempt status. It worries me. It scares me, and I think we should tread very carefully.
Which, by the way, we've had that conversation. Under the Obama administration, the IRS was absolutely being scolded for not giving tax-exempt status to conservative groups.
That's right.
So we've actually done, we have seen this film before. The governor's not wrong.
Yeah. And I also think it is not just the next election cycle, right? It's not just the next president. And he said if our team loses, look, Republicans are going to lose, Democrats are going to win, the pendulum swings, right? There is a change in executive branch. We can count on that. It happens. So I think it can happen now, right? You see what's happening with Harvard. In fact, Trump posted on Truth Social that perhaps it should lose its tax-exempt status if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and, quote, terrorist-inspired / supporting sickness, right? So it's anything that he happens to disagree with or the administration disagrees with. It's what Governor Cox said. It's this ideological difference, and yet we're saying we're going to punish you by removing your tax-exempt status. It's not about how large their endowment is. It's I disagree with what you are talking about, right? And we have to be clear. BYU, as a school that's run under the auspices of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, teaches things that evangelical Christianity does not consider Christian. We could find ourselves, I think, in the crosshairs way before the executive branch changes hands.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. For me, if it's rule of law, right? So the law is supreme over all of this, which is a through, theme for me. Every time I'm talking about President Trump, it is about the rule of law,
right?
Not the rule of my party or my agenda.
Right.
It's the rule of law.
Right.
Right. So you could make an argument that Harvard has too much money. You can make an argument that the way that they do their admissions is not okay. But to use the IRS and tax-exempt status as a threat, right, that is unstable.
Right.
Right.
And we mentioned in the first segment, right, that this is an issue that we should think about. If I'm okay with it happening to the other guy, but I would not be okay with it happening to me, it's probably not right to be occurring right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I love it. And you and Governor Cox, what did he say? That is a good thought experiment, right? Like every time you're considering
Right.
something, put yourself in the other person's shoes.
That's right. So President Trump has his way of doing business in government. It's been a concern to people who maybe more moderate Republicans in the party. Now, one of those GOP senators says she's afraid of what the president may continue to do. We'll talk about that next when we come back on Inside Sources.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan, KSL's top local story this hour. Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals have new owners. The Larry H. Miller Company has purchased controlling interest in the teams as well as the Real Monarchs and the team's stadiums. Larry H. Miller Company CEO Steve Stark spoke this morning when the company announced the deal.
We're honored. We're very excited about this. We're grateful for the passionate fan base that we have. And we pledge to be great stewards, to invest, to build together.
David Blitzer will remain in the ownership group as the second largest shareholder behind the Miller family. Ryan and Ashley Smith, who own the Utah Hockey Club and the Jazz, are no longer part of RSL's ownership group. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump congratulated Dr. Oz on his swearing in this morning. He's the new administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid.
As CMS Administrator, Dr. Oz will work tirelessly to strengthen and protect Medicare for our nation's seniors and Medicaid for the needy. Just as I promised, there will be no cuts. We're not going to have any cuts. We're going to have only help.
Dr. Oz was officially sworn in under his new boss, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Your money at this moment, crickets. Nothing to report. The markets are closed today. And coming up, warmer weather is ahead for the weekend. Stay with us. The KSL weather forecast is next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Get a head start on the warmer months ahead with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Yes offers licensed technicians and an exceptional service guarantee to give you peace of mind and help prevent expensive breakdowns. Ensure your system is working at peak efficiency and help save money on energy costs with a $29 AC tune-up from Yes Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electric. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions. Just say yes.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
John always listens to his truck. So when his brakes start talking, he goes to AutoZone, where a helpful AutoZoner gets him the right parts. If John has time to put them in, he borrows a kit with Loan-A-Tool. And if he doesn't, he gets a free shop referral. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Deposit required for Loan-A-Tool. Restrictions apply.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body?
Huh?
That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Tito Nani.
We have a new accident in Ogden on 30th Street and Harrison Boulevard that has completely shut down southbound lanes of travel. Also another accident in Midvale on eastbound I-215 South near State Street that is out of traffic and off to the right shoulder. Remember, our KSL Mountain Home Services text line is always open at 57500. Olson's Greenhouse helps families connect with nature through hands-on gardening. The perfect way to spend time and grow together. Add Olson's flowers to porches, patios, beds, or containers during Olson's Container Fest, April 26. Tito Nani in the KSL Traffic Center.
And you'll get a chance to garden this weekend. Sunshine tomorrow, the high 57. Easter Sunday, a few clouds up to 66 degrees right now, 46. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
So in recent town halls across the country, and we did talk about that earlier in the show, angry voters have been unleashing their frustrations on lawmakers for what they say is rolling over to President Trump. We're seeing this in Democratic districts and Republican districts, right? And so there's this whole idea that Republican lawmakers should be standing up to some of the things President Trump has done, and that's gaining some momentum. But look, one of the moderate Republicans is Senator Murkowski from Alaska, and she is standing up and she's speaking out, but she's also acknowledging that it's scary to do that because retribution is real. Welcome back to Inside Sources.
Yeah. Here, let's listen to comments Senator Murkowski made this week, recorded by the Anchorage Daily News.
We are all afraid. We're in a time and a place where I don't know, I certainly have not been here before. And I'll tell you, I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice. Because retaliation is real. And that's not right.
So I want to just tell you, I'm a huge fan of James Madison and horizontal checks and balances, right? Like that's the thing I talk about, I think is the coolest thing about America. So when I hear a senator saying she is afraid to speak out, what does she say? I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice because retaliation is real, and that's not right. I'm not sure how you achieve Madisonian checks and balances if Congress members are afraid to speak.
I mean, I think you see that across the board right now. We're seeing a lot of silence, to be honest. And a lot of people, if they do say something, they'll say, well, just wait and see. I think in the long term, things will work out. But I think that her acknowledging that there's retaliation, right, for going against whatever specific agenda, we should be concerned about that as American citizens. We should be concerned that we are losing what seems to be the checks and balances. There are three distinct branches of government. And again, we'll go back to the founders, but they set it up that way on purpose, right? So that no one branch could have all the power or be able to squash the other ones, right? That was part of the whole constitutional convention, is how do you balance these things, right? So the fact that legislators are openly saying, legislators on the president's side, I would say, right? So Republicans within the power structure are saying, look, retaliation is real.
Yeah, I think it did make me think of our own Senator Romney, who left office, in the last election, and basically having some concern at that point that Trump has been swearing retribution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
Prior to the 2024 election, the candidate Trump was saying, if I win, I'm going to investigate like Liz Cheney. Does that make sense? He had like a list of people. And Mitt Romney believed at that time that he would top an enemy list and maybe would have to move overseas, right? Like that was something he was worried about. And I had such respect for Senator Romney. I'm not in his party, Holly, so I'll just be clear.
Okay.
But I had such respect for him and the fact that someone who had served as a governor, someone who had served as a candidate for the Republican highest office, right?
Yep.
Someone who is absolutely a leader in this country, was afraid to speak to, just how.
Look,
right,
one of the things that I've heard is people should take Trump seriously, but not literally, and I think that's probably naive. I think you should take him literally at this point.
But
right?
also, isn't that a problem? So let me just pause you right there. Because one of our co-hosts here on Inside Sources says that. Take him, what did you say?
Seriously, but not literally.
And I'm like, but aren't we kind of supposed to take people at their word?
Yeah.
Right? So if someone says they're going to do something.
Are you acknowledging that he lies? Is that
right.
what you're saying?
So what is the, yeah, but it's like if you say X, I should believe you. When someone shows you something who they are, believe it.
them.
Right.
Yeah. And, I can just imagine within the Utah legislature, so again, I'm going to apply it to myself. If I was at the legislature as a member of the legislature and I was told, you will support this no matter what, I don't care what your constituents want, I'm in leadership and you're going to do it my way, or I'm going to primary you and I have a lot of money to throw at it. I think there are a lot of people who would say, I'm not going to speak up, right? But I just think it's, when you run on the politics of fear, it puts us in a bad spot, right? I think business owners are afraid to speak up. Maybe don't make waves and maybe I won't get hit by the tariffs, right? I think the universities are afraid to speak up. I think Harvard finally did, right? But they were not the first university to be attacked, it felt like. And the first, or a law firm, right? People are afraid to speak up. And then I think people start seeing it and saying, okay, it didn't work. In fact, this is what I saw a comment from on X about the Harvard situation and Columbia University, saying Columbia just learned that appeasement doesn't work.
Right. They capitulated. And they still lost millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Right.
So here you have a sitting senator she's been in the crosshairs before. She's won re-election, right? Despite Trump's support for her MAGA-aligned challenger, right? She's definitely made a name for herself as being a moderate Republican, willing to speak out, and even she is standing up and saying it can be scary.
Yeah, and it's interesting. She's like, that's why you've got everybody just zipped-lipped, not saying a word because they're afraid they're going to be taken down. They're going to be primaries. They're going to be giving names in the media, right? And then you do kind of wonder, it's like when people are behind closed doors, what are they actually saying?
Well, we've seen some of those reports, right? We have leaks in D.C. There's leaks everywhere, but about screaming, about calling down the power of Jesus to curse the person who is speaking. I mean, I had no idea that was going on behind closed doors, right? I mean, there are some things going on, and I'm heartened to hear Mike Kennedy, who is my congressman, by the way, say due process matters, right? That's feels like an important step to acknowledge that due process matters for everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. as someone who is not a Republican, right? So what I mean, like I'm the token. Like you just keep saying it's okay. We tolerate you, Leah. But yeah, so but a little bit, it's like if the Republican Party wants to be the governing party and the best party for Americans, they've got to be open to a free marketplace of ideas within their party.
Oh,
right. So they've got to argue
have
with
heard
each
that
other
so often, right? And states are the laboratories of democracy, right? That means we get to try different things, and there's different policy proposals that we can get to. And I think overall, if you look at it from a 30,000-foot view, largely Americans want to feel safe and secure. They want their kids to have a better life than they have, right? We're kind of aligned that way. How we get there differs, but when you live under the politics of fear and you feel like I can't speak up or I might lose my job,
I can't speak up because I might be attacked on social media.
That doesn't bother me, but yeah, right? I mean, there's that, right? Or I'll be ostracized in my neighborhood if I put a campaign sign in my yard. Or, I mean, there's things where if you're running on the politics of fear, I think you need to step back and say, if the other side were the one in control and doing this to me or my friends or my family, would I be okay with it?
And I also think, just using your example right there, how would you feel if the Democrats were only loyal to whatever their leader is, as opposed to having also an argument, right? You would criticize them for that point of view.
That's right. That's right. For being really insular, right?
Right.
So we're going to tee up our final segment, and we get to do, it's Friday, which is always great. It's also Good Friday, and we want to leave on a happy note. So we'll tee that up and come back with you when we come back on Inside Sources.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture with daily use.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for autopay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Get it. It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss. Because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Are you serious?
Yeah!
Just 3 weeks in, and the pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight. Without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself. My body did exactly what it wanted to do. I just gave it its tools.
Let's spring into summer right now with Soda Weight Loss. If you want to look like this for summer, now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Remember, this is our best offer of the year, so let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Today, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
With it being the end of the work week and the beginning of a pretty special holiday weekend, we wanted to end things on a lighter note. We're going to keep it political, Holly Richardson.
At least at the beginning.
Yeah, alongside Leah Murray here to have a conversation about today is the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's legendary ride before the battles of Lexington and Concord. Now, you just tell me, like, this is the mythology, right? But he's going to hang one lantern
one
if it's
by
land and two if it's by sea. And he's going to ride to, like, mobilize the troops. That was 250 years ago.
Today. Yep. And I think one of the things that I didn't know is the state actually has several activities planned around this midnight ride of Paul Revere.
So can I just say something real quick?
Sure.
We've had like an hour and 45 minutes of like the cacophony, if you will, that can be American politics. Why I think it's super important for America to pause and acknowledge 250 years, right, coming up in 2026, right? So math is not hard, like 1776. Right. It's actually next year. But we're going to start celebrating this over the next year. It's important because that is something that we have as a shared identity. It is something that we have in common.
Yep.
We should find the agreement in all the disagreement on the fact that Paul Revere today, 250 years ago in 1775, helped get this whole thing started. He's not the only one.
He is not. There was a young woman, too. She's
Sybil Luddington. Yes.
Often lost to history, but
one of my favorites.
Participated, too. Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool is the state capitol actually will have 2 searchlights on Friday night, or tonight. It's tonight. And it's one of more than 200 sites across the nation participating in 2 lights for tomorrow. So representing the 2 lanterns atop the Old North Church in Boston.
Yeah, and the events are led by Utah chapters of the Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution. So let me just reveal my conflict of interest right here because I am a DAR member. But I want to just make clear, I didn't pitch this story. This wasn't on me doing this on behalf of the DAR. But
I'm not an official member, but I can claim membership.
Well, what are you doing? Why are you not an official member?
I'm also a member of the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers, but I haven't officially done that either. So,
well, now, Holly.
Time and effort.
Oh, no. Let me just tell you, right? Like, I discovered during COVID, I love genealogy research.
It's so fun.
That I'm actually a descendant of the Mayflower Compact. And there's an organization that is like that as well. and then COVID ended.
We got to be cousins because
I'm sure we're cousins.
I got that
Clearly,
too.
we're both
I'm
cool.
actually a descendant of one of the witches that was hung in Salem, and she was the older one, and she just would not have it from the men in the local town, and she would not kowtow to them. I'm like, well, the apple doesn't fall that far from the tree.
DNA tells, doesn't it tell? I love this. All right, now Holly, you had an excellent article about stitching hope into the fabric of democracy. So just kind of like pivoting a little bit from Paul Revere and his ride, very important, to what women today are doing here in Utah to kind of honor.
So it's not just Utah. So one of the things that's really great, this is an organization called Women Building Peace, and it really was the brainchild of a BYU professor, Jessica Priest, who's also another woman with a PhD in political science. But
best people.
Yeah. She's a quilter, and one of the things that occurred to her earlier this year in February when she was like, what do I do? I don't have a ton of time. I can't organize big rallies, and that's not really my jam anyway. But she's like, I can quilt. And she called together, so from a Thursday afternoon to Saturday morning, she was able to pull together 120 women to Provo to quilt for the Constitution. And what they're doing, this is now spread to multiple states. I think the last I saw was 17 states. And they're writing positive messages to the members of Congress that represent them. So what they're trying to do is saying, look, due process is for everyone. Upholding the Constitution is not optional. We love our Constitution, and that's one of the messages that they wanted to get across is how much they love the Constitution, and they're worried, right? And they want legislators, as they look at quilts hanging on the wall, to say, okay, there are people in my district who are really concerned. What can I do, right? And one of the things that's interesting is that they will be going back the first week in May to talk about finishing quilts and then hand delivering them.
So I love this idea. I want to just say my great-great-grandmother was a quilter, and I have in my house a quilt that had the signatures of everyone in her church.
Fantastic.
Right, so it's a beautiful genealogical, just kind of the family names that were there. So I love this idea of quilting into history.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
And it's not, again, this is not a brand new idea. Women have used quilting as a ways to be politically active for a long time.
Yeah, and so what's happening, I love this in the story. Each quilt was comprised of 10 by 10 inch squares with messages. Protect democracy. Remember everyone's humanity as you make decisions. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these, my brothers, ye have done it unto me. And then they're going to give these quilts to Senators Mike Lee and John Curtis.
Yes, and as well as the Utah delegation, but then there will be quilts available for delegations from other states as well. So this is a broad effort. It's more than one organization that has come together that is working on this. So Mormon Women for Ethical Government is one organization, but there's multiple involved in this, and this is a nationwide effort.
Yeah, and I love, so my favorite quote that I lead my class, my intro government class is, it's a republic if you can keep it, right?
Yeah,
that's a
right.
quote from Ben Franklin.
Yep.
And what I heard, my understanding is the BYU professor, that political science professor probably also knows that from Ben Franklin. This is my republic if I can keep it.
That's
so
right.
what can I do?
Yeah.
And what I also love about it is, you know what? You don't have to, how do I say? A lot of people in our country, I think, are turning to political violence.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you don't really need to do that.
No.
You can have a lasting impact.
Yeah.
Peacefully.
And there's lots of things. And I think that was one of Jessica's points to me was there are lots of ways to use your voice, and there are lots of ways to speak up for our republic, right, for our Constitution. And quilting can be one way. Writing postcards can be another way. Holding a meeting in your house and doing, learning nights on the Constitution, that can be another way. I mean, there's just as many ways as there are people, but this is one way to peacefully protest.
Yeah, so the America 250, right, that I kind of started this conversation with, and a little bit with Paul Revere, right at the top of this segment, I love what you just said. My goodness, across the country, over the next year, we should all have a moment. So I'm Catholic. We talked about it being a religious week. Good Friday is today. This is a very important holiday for Catholics. And at the top of the millennium, we did things where you'd have like little groups of Catholics getting together and reading things from the Bible and talking about it. Like, we should do that for America.
Yeah.
Like, everyone should get together in a group and read the Declaration of Independence at least once
I have a
in
huge
community.
anniversary coming up anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And just kind of acknowledge this matters.
Yeah.
Right?
It does matter.
It does matter. Paul Revere riding mattered. Sybil Luddington riding mattered as well. It's not mutually exclusive. You can remember new names, right?
Yeah.
As you were
Right.
remembering,
right.
What do Girl Scouts say? Make new friends, but
Yeah.
keep the old, right?
That's
So you
right.
learn the new names, keep the old names in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we spend the next 2 years, maybe not all of us quilting, because I'm going to tell you what, I am not a super great sewer, so that's not what you want me doing. But I could absolutely host a declaration event or a Constitution event.
Yeah. Again, many different ways, and I think it's an important moment, right, for people to say, look, we want to show that we love the Constitution too, right? This is not exclusive to one party or another. This is a bipartisan thing. We love the Constitution. We love our country. That's why we live here, and we believe in the basic foundational principles of the country.
Yeah, and a little bit, Holly, I think sometimes everything is so affective polarized. Right? So the answer is, if that team, who I'm not on that team, said it, it must be evil.
Right.
Or wrong.
Right.
Or we don't have to go to
Right.
evil. It could just be wrong. And then I'm going to yell about it.
Right.
Right? And maybe we could just say, look, the Constitution, written by flawed human beings, but has beautiful tenets in it, has beautiful ideals. Those ideals are good. Right? Maybe we can find some love across difference as a result of that.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, let's just tie it into the weekend. It's a big day.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in today on this big day. Join Adam Gardner and guest host Emily Lockhart on Monday for more Inside Sources. Next up is Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. Have a wonderful Easter weekend.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 46 in Salt Lake City. KSL's top story, 3 weeks after tragedy rocked a quiet Saratoga Springs neighborhood, we're getting our first glimpse into the investigation. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera joins us live with the latest. Derek?
Silence is for a reason.
We work together at the same department. They understand that very well. And I would expect that, if they can put the information out, they would.